Let's begin. Today's daf is daf Lamed Vov on the base Vov Kislev. So we're up to the very top of the page, and we have an interesting aboya which the Gemara doesn't resolve. One actually has two aboyas. So we're continuing to discuss the theme of if there's a madir and a mudr, the person who made the vow and the person who was on the other end of the vow. The person who made the vow, what is he permitted to do for the mudr? And that we can say the mudr is not really having any benefit. As we said before, performing mitzvahs for them is not considered as if you're giving them any benefit. And we went so far as to say, according to Chanan, that you can pay off his loans because you're not giving it to him directly. You're just a mavriach chasari. You're chasing the lions away. Even though Chacham disagree, but then we say even according to Chacham, if the loan was such a kind of a loan that the lender said he won't pester him if he doesn't pay up, so then he didn't do him much of a favor. And then the Gemara Yisuz, we had an opinion that disagreed because the shame that you saved him, you spared him all the shame. Every time he walked down the street, he sees his lender, even though the lender's not going to say anything, he knows what the lender is thinking. But that person doesn't want to pay me back. So you did help him out, and that's called a hana. We have different opinions. So you have an interesting child. You have a question as follows. So you have Reuben and you have Shimon. Nothing to do with Al Gemara here, but we'll soon see how it comes back to Al Gemara. You have Reuben and Shimon. Reuben has a field, and Kolzman, you don't give your Truman, your Meister is the field. Everything in that field, the crop is called Tevel, Tovloi, you cannot use it. And the big machlek is Rashi, Taisus, and Yivamas, at least where Taisus understood Rashi. How do we understand Tevel? Is Tevel the pshat? That there's a mixture of Truma and Meiser here, and all you're doing when you're giving Truma is separating the Truma, like a brera, that whatever I'm separating, that is Truma. Taisus has a problem with that, so how come a kohen can eat Tevel? And other than why isn't bottle beroiv and so on. But then Taisus learns there's a concept that Tevel is Tevel. And it's another Easter altogether. Nothing's unrelated. When you said outside Truma, you just created the Truma. You didn't sort out the Truma, you created it. And some of the poskim want to relate that. Machlek just told you to Gemara here, but we won't go to that. Sounds a bit tenuous. But anyway, so Reuben has a field. Shimon decided, out of generosity of his heart, of his generosity of his spirit, to take from his own crop and use that as truma for the field of Reuben. So Reuben now can eat the entire field, and Shimon has a truma. Does he have to make Reuben aware or not? What's the shaila? We know that you have to have shlichus by truma because it says in the pasuk atem gam atem. In the Gemara, in Sugin Kedushin of shlichus, we say ma atem l'daitchem, gam atem l'daitchem. So we know that a shlich, just like when you do something, you know what you're doing. So the shlich also, you have to appoint. So you know what you're doing. So what's the shaila? This guy Shimon went ahead and did it on his own. So the shaila as follows. Do we say kivan the schus? Because what you're doing now is actually benefiting Reuven, and therefore it's a schus. And schus, therefore, is tantamount to shlichus. So you don't need to inform Reuven. It's as if Reuven appointed you the shlich. A yilma mitzvah delay. What's the shayla? Not that schus is not shlichus, but maybe yilma mitzvah delay. Reuven has a mitzvah. The nichlim evda. You stole his mitzvah. You think it's a schus. It's a chayv. At least tzas chayv. There is a benefit. You save me all this money. I don't have to set aside my own truma. But the chsaron is, I lost out on a mitzvah.
At some point, he's gonna,
Oh, you'll tell him after you did it. The chalais truma happened. Now, Taisus says over here, the first Taisus, actually the second Taisus, let's just learn it because he lays on his side there. Me and Taisus, the 3 lines. Me, I'm reading, do we say, Kivan the schus to light, the schus, light sardas, the zachin la'adon shalei b'fanav, you can zeich it to a person without their knowledge. There's chiyah metam shlichus. And what's the basis of chiyah? I'm doing it on my own. On what basis does it become yours? Because we are witnesses that if you would have been aware that this is what's available for you, of course you would have been happy to appoint him as a shlich. So the Anan Sadi, as if you made him a shlich with the witnesses, and Zechia is an extension of shlichus. And now he says Taisus, you'll find all over Shas where we say Zechia metam shlichus, this is the basis right here, this Gemara. The fact that we say that he's a shliach b'tzat schus, the only question is maybe it's not a schus. Now, Taisus and other places actually brings another mucker altogether for schiyam tam shlichus. He brings a mucker from the Gemara B'Metzia where it says that chotzer. Why does your courtyard acquire for you? Because chotzer mitam yad v'lo gora mishlichus. The Gemara says that chotzer is like your extension of your hand, but at least it's like your shlich. And you know what falls in your chotzer? No, it falls in chotzer. It says chiyam mitam shlichus. Rashi but Metzia Daf Yud Aleph there doesn't agree with this. See all that Schia don't do with Shlichus. Schia is like Exeis Akasav. We'll learn a Kedushin of Mbeza where we learn Schia from. It's totally unrelated. And then Nafkamin is Allah. Another very okay. Let's continue and tell you another important issue later. So that's the question. Says the Gemara. Let's now go. Let's bring it back to our Gemara. Touch my coming here. It says our Gemara. The Madis said to the Mudder, "You shouldn't have any benefit from me." Yet the Madis can set aside truma for the person. The Es Masra to give his Ma'aser lid dai toy. The Mishnah has the word lid dai toy, and even though he's aware of it, you can do that because you're doing a mitzvah. So you're not giving him any ano. And the truma you're giving is going to a kohen. What are we talking about here? What's the case? When we say l'daitoi, first of all, what's the case? There are two parts to it. First of all, whose tavua, whose crop is he using it to donate to the kohen for truma? Second of all, is whose das are we referring to here? So what are we talking about? Are we talking about Balkeri that what? That the mother walked into the mother's house without the knowledge of whatever and took fruit from whatever crop from the mother's house and he gave it to a kohen and l'dait. And who's it says he hadn't made him aware. Who's das? There's two possibilities. Either the mother's das, you have to tell him, look, this is what I'm doing, or his own das, the mother's das. To delay his own das, man shavishlich. Well, I can walk into your field and take without your knowledge, and who made me a shlich? Elo ledato the balakeri. Must be that the das of the balakeri. I'm making him aware. In other words, he appointed me as a shlich, because you have to be a shlich. He appointed me as a shlich. No, if he appointed me as a shlich and I did the shlich, it's true, the truma itself is going to a kohen, it's a mitzvah. But the fact that I listened to you and I obliged, and itself gives you a certain satisfaction. Why am I permitted to do that? I'm benefiting you, I did your shlichus. So it can't be talking about such a case. And what is it talking about? Must be talking about that the mother uses own crop and said this should be truma on behalf of the balkeri. Ula died to the man. The same question goes back. Who's that? Elaim the balkeri knew about it and he appointed you. No, the same question. The fact that you oblige him, and here even a bigger way. You listen to him, and plus you came at a cost. So surely you're giving hanot to the mother. How are you permitted? Navas the died the nafshe. Navas. He has no idea, no inkling what you're doing, and it's good enough. Why is it good enough? Why is it good enough? The chayda has to be shlichus because it's a schus. So we see from here that this idea that I stole your mitzvah is not a cheshbon at all. Is not a chayv. Umishalei teisha chaveli. V'yam etzardas hakamahanalei elalav etzardas. The most shame omit this line because it's repeated itself. We just said that a minute ago. There can't be that the mudder pointed in because then again. It's he giving him an Elalav ain't tzaradas. So me clear either what. You don't have to inform him. What about the question you had? You stole his mitzvah. That's not considered a chayv. That's the thing. What I want to prove from here that you can be told him because it's a schus and it's good enough. Says Gemara no raya. Lo elam balakeri al balakeri. It could even be that you went into the mudder's field and took from his crop. The question is, who's daitoi? If he appointed you, because he has to appoint you, make a shlich. If he appointed you, then what do you call it? You're going into this field. You can't say it's his crop. What are you taking his crop out? He had to appoint you. If he appointed you, the question is, so that's you're giving him the fact that you're obliging him and listening to what he asked. We're talking about a case here, but he said, it didn't appoint you specifically. He just said, anybody wants to come in my field and give truma, you're more than welcome. So it's a general statement. So therefore, because he didn't appoint you and others could have come in and done the same thing as well, you are not really being mahana him. It's his crop. So, and he said, whoever will come and do it, that is my shliach. So on the one hand, you have shlichus here. So therefore, it's the das of the mudder. It's the das. On the other hand, you're not giving any hana to the mudder because anybody could have come in. That's what we're talking about. And the Gemara does not resolve this issue at all. So the Rambam, another shayt in Paskin, that it is considered a good truma. Now this is negay. It's a big machlekes in halacha, very interesting psak din, which everybody's baffled by. And this is based on a rivosh, tshuva the rivosh, where the person asks the rivosh, can I make a point? Actually, he didn't ask, can I? The person who wrote the question to Rivash assumed you cannot make a shliach for Pidyon Aben. You can't make a shliach for Pidyon Aben. The question is, the nuscha bracha. Why do they say, do you say li or al Pidyon Aben or liflos Aben? And the Rivash talks about Alan and doesn't argue with the Shoyl regarding this Hanocha that you cannot point your slave opinion of Ben. So the Ramah passes hey, you cannot have a shliach doing your opinion. The Shach has absolutely goes to town. What do you mean? Shliach on Kamaisai, we have a call called the Kulish on Kamaisai. What are you talking about? The Taz also goes to town. And the Taz brings the Tzedel Derech, what do you call it? They all argue with the Ramah that you could. The Taz sort of disagrees and he agrees with Ramah. And basically what he talks about here is that they go off on a tangent, but basically they're talking about here is it a chayv ksas? If the father is doing it and you're doing it on behalf of the child, if a child cannot have shlichus, the mitzvah, if you're doing it on behalf of the child, a child cannot have shlichus. The thing is, Tosfos, it's all based on Tosfos and Ksubas, where he wants to say, how can my bin leishadan's better than you can regale a little child? And Gemara says, because it's chus. There's no shlichus lekotten. So Tosfos wants to say that with the rabbanon. Then he has a whole issue. He said, "Gay only with the rabbanon." So if he touches yain, it's yain esech, and what's going on there? And if it's a girl and it gets kedushin, only to get it's very complicated. So then Tosfos says that maybe it's matter, and he says that when we say ein shlichus lekotten is when there's a ktsas chayv, like by truma. He says there's a ktsas chayv like by truma, and but where there's no chayv at all, it's all good. Then even for cotton, there's shlichus mehat Torah, and therefore there's chiyah. And becoming a Jew, there's no negative points about it at all. It's a schus gomer. Why is truma now a ktsas chayv? Because truma is not. So in other words, so this is what the shach because the kesef and argue about. What's Tosfos saying here? Is he saying that the chayv here is the fact you stole my mitzvah? Is that the chayv? Then Taki, you cannot do it chus for a child because you stole his mitzvah. Let him wait till he's by mitzvah. The father doing it. The Torah says so, but it says you bin be paid. But the moment it's outside of the father's not doing it anymore, a bezdin or somebody else, grandfather shouldn't step in according to those. Is the word because he's stealing the mitzvah? Is that the chayv, or is the word because by truma he could have gone away cheap? Shmuel says chita achas pateres zakeri. Maybe he would just give one kernel of wheat, and you gave 2%, 1%, whatever it is, 1.5%. So therefore, that's the chayv. The chayv is a cost, or he could have been myrim. We had Gemara brachas. There's a trick. There's a way, or pesachim. There's a way of getting out of giving truma at all. Bring it into your house through the skylight. Bring it in your house when it's still growing, it's still in its sheath. So it's not the stealing the mitzvah; it's the cost. It's not cost. Sorry, but when he forget about it, now Gemara truma. He doesn't have to give anything because the guy already gave them. No, yeah, but why am I upset? Why am I upset? We're saying it's the Gemara saying it's the schus and different word, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's not a schus because mitzvah delay, right? It's not a schus. What's not a schus? Because you stole my mitzvah? Is that the word? Or because I owe you a big favor. Well, you gave whatever it is, $1,000. I could have done it for 5 cents. Or there's another nusach in Tosfos, lahadif. For my thing, I like to be the generous people. I like to give 2%, and you gave the beinoni, which is 1.5%, or whatever. You gave 1 out of 50. I would have given 1 out of 40. I would have given 2.5%. You gave 2%. So that is that pshat. Now there's a whole Gemara we'll have one day that if you steal somebody's brachas, you have to pay him 10 zuhu, 10 gold coins. And we'll learn over there Tosfos about them and we have a chance about selling mitzvahs. You can make a business out of selling mitzvahs and everything else. Is it only brachas or is it mitzvahs? Because depending on that is how you learn pshat here. What's this? You stole my mitzvah because mitzvah has value because you can sell it as a commodity. The Shulchan Aruch says you can sell mitzvahs, you can sell them haba. Fascinating learning Baba Kama. Or is it that I would have given better, or it's not the thing the mitzvah, it's the way you did the mitzvah that bothers me. Anyway, getting back here. Back to Yimon, another question. Asked a question. Somebody gives Truma on his friend for let's say Shimon, the Shimon gave on behalf of Reuben. The The teva sana is whose. For example, somebody will come over to you and say, I'll give you $5. I have a grandson, a kohen. My daughter married a kohen. I'll give you $5. Give the truma. You have to give it anyway. You make it to you. You give it to my grandson. Who gets that $5? That teva sana. Is it the one who gave the truma, or the crop on the one who gave the truma for? Meaning, we say Eli paid the hayet mimisakne kaya dahu. Wouldn't have been for Shimon's giving the fruits. How would that help Reuben? Ideal Ilav kaya dahu. Have it paid truma. Not for the truma. What's the point? It wouldn't be a chalois truma. Shimon's crop that he gives to the kohen would not be called truma if it wouldn't have been for the field of Reuben. It says the pasuk, "Kol tfuah zaracha v'nasata." It says "Asa to asa kol tfuah zaracha v'nasata." So it's but we're catching on the half the pasuk tfuah zaracha v'nasata. No, who is the one who has the nesina? Who's the one who has teva sana? The one who owns the tfuah, not the one who gave you the kohen, but the one who owns it. That's a question. It says in our Mishnah, I told you, Mr. Moshe, as a data, you can tell me there's no balakedi. You can tell me about the teva sana belongs to balakedi. So I just did him a favor. The mother did the mother a favor. The mother now will get the $5 that benefit. How come Hanile gives Hanosh? Mama must be that teva not delay. Must be the teva that belongs to the mother. So it's no problem. Amri must no. Loi no. Amri loi. Mishabalakedi. Or the daita balakedi. Must no problem. Who said it? Talking about the mother is giving him own tour. In the case of our Mishnah, as we said before, it's the mudder's to the mudder's crop, but he's listening. He had to be appointed to shliach, and he's listening. That's a hana. No, in a case, but Toshma comments. So what's the second solution? Second question: how do we resolve that? 3 dinim. And they're talking about where I set aside an animal. Shimon set aside an animal. Reuben owns a carbon. Shimon set aside an animal and said, "This animal is for your carbon, Reuben." So you have 3 dinim regarding that. Hamagdish. The din is that if you're paida, let's say has a mumna. So you're paida. If you're the owner, you pay an extra 5th. If you're a fremde, you don't pay the extra 5th. So the din is who pays the 5th here? The extra 5th. The one who was makdish the animal, or on whose behalf it was set aside. So din number 1, hamagdish ma'aseh chaymer. The one who was makdish the animal is the one. No, Shimon is the one who has to pay that penalty, extra 5th, but not the one who's done on behalf. Number 1. Number 2, who can make the tumura? Tumura is that you say that this animal should be swapped for this animal, and now who tumura say you're both kodesh. Who has the right to make the tumura? The one whose animal on behalf of it is, or the one who has to mark this animal? Here he says, the animal now belongs to this mischaper. He must not read his, it's on his behalf, so that he makes murder. The number 3 is your question. But if you told him of whoever does the trum is the one who gets teves and and go back to the pasuk, will say asa to asa v'nasata. The one who gives the meiser is the one that is considered his meiser, and therefore he gets the teves sana. Now the second question will resolve. The first one does. The Mishnah makes a whole pilpul in the Rambam how the 2 toshmas are totally each other, and since we resolved this one, we automatically resolve the first one. So it's not because we're machmer that his name is truma, because if you want to be machmer, then you should say that the balbosh gets truma again or something. It's rather because that's the din. The din is that it's about, as we can conclude over here, it's about the truma, because it's a kol yirtze. It's going. So anyway, right, this is a Mishnah. Melamde medrash halacha God of loy lamei shulun chumash. Mikra my time lo yamlena. Why shouldn't chumash? What's the chiluk chumash? Everything else. I'm the mad that can teach chumash to the mother. Should they come hanilei? You know why I can't? Because you're giving a benefit. What benefit? Because normally you pay for it, and now I'm saying I'm moichel the payment, because otherwise if you pay me, but there's no hana, because you could have hired anybody. I'm what do you call it? I'm benefiting you, and by telling you, you have to pay me. If you don't know medrash, the same cheshbon, then if he teaches medrash, you have to pay you, and you're moichel the payment. How much more the makish and is chalal mikra is chalal medrash? Talking about a case where you get paid for teaching chumash and you don't get paid for teaching medrash. So one of my prosper, and the way most of them, not everyone, most of them learn, the shayla is, why did you decide that chumash people pay and medrash they don't pay? What's the difference? Says the Gemara, how come and the Mishnah teach you a separate thing? That feel of a mock no just chal ala mikra shad the mishkal shadi the mishkal ala medrash le shad the mishkal. You're not allowed to get paid for teaching medrash and halachas and agadus, but you're allowed to get paid for chumash. We're talking about a place where you pay, because if you're talking about a place where they don't pay, then there's no difference in mikra and mishnah. You're not saving them any money. But in the place you pay, they're saying it's legal to pay. Ma'ishna medrash delay. Why can't you medrash to see? Because it says the pasuk Moshe Rabbeinu says, "But I see tziva Hashem be'esahi." Hashem told me L'lamed eschem. The Eibusha told gave me instructions. I should teach you. Uksiv, it says in Pasuk there. The A you should see. L'malati eschem. I taught you chukim mishpatim kasha tzivani Hashem, like Hashem instructed me. What did Hashem instruct me? So what the Ran learns is either ma'ani b'chinim, just like I taught you this. I taught you I didn't get charged. How do we know what you taught without charge? So most of Hashem say because he's a rich man. Why would he charge? A rich man doesn't charge when he's in Lamed. It's only an average person that's it for us. You always have to be this for free. What's the difference and why Chumash allowed to charge? Rav says Rav says it's because babysitting. A teacher gets paid for babysitting because the kids otherwise run around outside and they can get hurt and who knows what happens. They can go stray. Rabbi Yechon says char pisuk timing. You cannot teach. Even you're right. Anything that Moshe Rabbeinu had to teach us Torah you can because the Torah is included. But pisuk timing you could teach. Now, what's pisuk timing? Most of Shreim say it's trup, and trup is important because the way you follow trup teaches you how to break up the pasuk. The snachta is half a pasuk and there's a pasuk. It teaches you pasuk how to teach a pasuk. But interesting is Rashi says, which other Shem don't say, that pisuk timing Rashi says here is including. Nikud v'tayim. Rashi is Nikudis. Now that's important. That means everybody else says it's only pisuk time, not Nikudis. You're not allowed to teach anything which is a chiv mahatayim. You can only teach things which are not a chiv mahatayim and get charged for it and get paid for it. So I mean, according to Rashi, Nikudis is not mahatayim. It's only is not mahatayim at all, and therefore you're allowed to teach it and get paid for it. According to other Rishonim, Nikudis that's Masayda, Mikra. Without the Kudas, you can't do anything. So they hold that when we say learning Torah, the Kudas are included in the mitzvah of learning Torah. So we teach the Kudas, and it's only the Trop that is not Mahat Torah. According to Rabbi Yechon, Rabbi disagrees because he holds learning Trop is Mahat Torah. Not only learning the Kudas and reading, but also learning Trop, as we'll see in tomorrow's morning. What's the question like this? One who says that you're getting paid for trop, therefore it says in the Mishnah, it says we're talking about adults, right? Don't teach the mother because you're giving him hana, because he can pay you, he's supposed to pay you, and you're telling him don't worry about the payment. So you're giving him hana, he's making that money. We're talking about babysitting an adult, you only babysit kids. God will bar shimahu. The mother is the mother, you bar shimahu. So my answer is big cotton Tony. We're talking about the mudr is a cotton. So the mother, you're talking about the mudr is a cotton, and therefore you would have to pay me for babysitting you, and now I'm meichel, and that's why I can't do that. I can't teach you chumash. Why? What about there's no babysitting by Gemara? Because it says in the Mishnah, the Ben Esel, the Mishnah, we assume that kids 10 years old don't need babysitting anymore. Disciplined, only younger kids. Says the Gemara, Iba cotton. If I'm talking about the mudr is a cotton. What's the next case in Mishnah? A malamed as born of Mikri, teaches kids. Which cotton has kids? Cotton barbanu. If we're talking about the mother of cotton, how does he have kids? So you might write a few words are missing. This I should learn. You should not teach if the mother is a cotton, you cannot teach him because he has to pay you for babysitting and you're meichel him that payment, so he's having enough. These are the words are missing. But if the mother is an adult. So you're allowed to teach him if the word is because of babysitting, because you don't have to babysit him. So you don't charge, you're not giving me enough. I teaching, that's a mitzvah. And mitzvah is lav lahanas to you. But so too is children allowed to teach as well, mikra, because if the benefit is not directly to him. You're only causing him a benefit. They're dealing with the son. And Labana mikra. Now how come then teachers can get paid today? How am I to get paid today? So it used to be the answer in all the Rishonim. They couldn't imagine that older kids need discipline, so they couldn't. So they said the reason is was charbatol. We had in Ksubis in the last payday. How do you pay the yonim? It says clearly the yonim will get paid. So we answer because charbatol. They would have had a job and part time for sure because we see they have a job the rest of the time and they're taking over that time to work here. And if it's full time, they probably would have had a job. So that's the heter for Malam. Today, they need shimur all the years, so there's nothing to talk about.
Where have you ever realized a teacher just teaching Chumash?
No, yeah, but schar shimur Why is it no Chashima for 10 years old for Mishnah and Gemara? Because they don't need discipline. Today they need to be Shomer all the time.
Without the school, the teachers also teaching things that they could charge for.
Like what?
Medrash.
No, you cannot charge Medrash. The only thing you charge is Chumash. Don't forget. Medrash Agora you're not allowed to charge. Only thing you're allowed to charge for is Chumash. Why? Either Rav says Pesach timing. Rabbi Yechina says because of okay. Now the din is that the what do you call it? A father has to pay schar limud whether he likes it or not. It's up to the teachers of Moichel, but a father has to pay schar limud. It's a big machlek actually. If you force the father to pay, you don't force the father to pay schar limud. The Lechem Mishnah has an interesting schar limud. So there's schar limud, which is either the shimur or the father has a mitzvah of teaching his son paid, and if he can't do it, you hire somebody. Can you force the father to pay that money, which will be schar shimur, whatever it is? So the machlek is a shayim. The Lechem Mishnah comes up with an interesting idea, and it's not brought down in the Lechem Mishnah comes with an idea like this. If a father has a mitzvah to teach, but when you shaykh to have a mitzvah, if you could do it. For example, if you have no tefillin, you're not honest. You're part of a mitzvah too. You don't have. If you're not shy, you're not moritz. Then you don't have then you can't learn yourself. How in the world can you teach your kid? You can't. So how can we force you? You don't have the mitzvah. If you can learn yourself, then you have a mitzvah to teach you. Whatever you know, you got to teach your kid, and therefore we'll force you to pay. As everyone's not passing, you have to pay all the time. But in the whole chakira, what about a grandfather? The grandparents have to pay the tuition in the schools for the grandkids if the parents can't afford it, to the extent of kfir that we force or not. Actually, Shmuel Paskins that the community has a responsibility to have a kuppah. They have a kuppah there, money to pay tuition for all the kids, and everyone in the community has to put money in there. And then that the rich people have a right to say, we also want to be supplied from that community fund because we contribute to it. Why are we different than anybody else? And a lot of interesting discussion about this, but that's what it's all about. Okay, continue tomorrow, Mr. Hashem.